You should have included your tweet, Blair. You should have just included your tweet. Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Hannah Needs to Yell, and today I need to yell about lying by omission. According to Wikipedia, lying by omission, also known as continuing misrepresentation or quote mining, occurs when an important fact is left out in order to foster a misconception. Lying by omission includes the failure to correct pre-existing misconceptions. In my opinion, the YouTuber known as Blair, who runs the commentary channel IILUMINAUGHTII, has been doing a lot of this recently. Many of you met me through my Creepshow art videos from early 2022. And if you remember, I took particular umbrage with Anthony and Shannon's apparent willingness to try to convince the audience that certain things that we all saw didn't happen, or that we would never find out certain information that was very much public. To be honest with you, I hate it when creators lie to their audience's faces or foster misconceptions. Whether it's lying by omission or straight up pretending, this kind of obvious condescending deception gets me riled up. It gets me heated. It even gets me meticulous. And that's what I'm here to be today. So buckle up, bitches. Now let's all get on the same page. If you've been on Twitter in the past few weeks, you've probably noticed a complex drama unfolding between the YouTube commentator IILUMINAUGHTII and 4 other online creators who all once shared a collab channel called Sad Milk. These other 4 creators go by One Topic, The Click, Wonder, aka Wonderstruck, and Oz Media, and they weave a tapestry of woeful tales about IILUMINAUGHTII. But before we even get to that part of the story, we have to talk about the catalyst for their coming forward, which was a public spat between IILUMINAUGHTII and an unrelated creator named legaleagle. It's been a wild few weeks. As you can tell, this drama is complex, it's emotional, it's personal, it involves more individual people and stories than any situation I've covered before. At the same time, there are still some moving pieces in the works here. So what I'd like to do today, rather than sitting here and repeating a lot of commentary that has already been given, or trying to give complete thoughts about parts of this story that are not yet complete, I'd like to focus on the parts of this story that are complete, because I feel like there are some very significant details that people are overlooking that reveal a lot about IILUMINAUGHTI's character, her integrity, and her intentions toward her audience in this entire situation. You see, this whole episode has played out mostly on Twitter until Blair made a video response which she posted on her YouTube channel. She understandably spends the majority of this video responding to the allegations against her by the other former members of the collab channel Sad Milk. However, because Blair organizes her response video in chronological order, meaning she responds to the different dramas that went down in the order that they went down, she starts by responding to the legaleagle situation that sparked everything going off. And that is where I am seeing an alarming amount of important details being overlooked. So today I'd like to resurrect my meticulous bitch hat and put it on for the sake of showing you all some patterns. I'm going to walk you through the first few sections of IILUMINAUGHTI's response video. The fact that she addresses everything in chronological order makes it easy for me to also give you all the context you need just by going through her video. Thank you, Blair Bear, for that. My personal goal is that by the end of this video, we will establish an important one of Blair's patterns when it comes to addressing her alleged wrongdoings. This pattern can be subtle and easy to miss, but once you catch it, it changes how you see everything in this response video. And honestly, it makes me question everything I see on her channel and her integrity in general. Blair has a strange relationship with the truth, or at least with the whole truth. And since this strangeness did not escape me, I think it's very much worth discussing. Before we get into all of that, please remember that this video is full of my opinions, my speculation. I am not an insider. I am just just telling you what I observe. Please take everything I say with a grain of salt and do not send hate to anyone that I mention in this video. Please also remember to give this video a like, give it a share, subscribe to my channel, set your notifications to all because I upload sporadically, so you're going to need those notifications to let you know my next upload, especially considering the fact that I'm going to be going on a break soon. You might think I'm already taking breaks all the time, but I'm going to talk about this more at the end of the video. I need to take a real break for the sake of my mental health and to try to cure my insomnia. Yeah, as it turns out, being sleep deprived for about a year can really take its toll on your mental health. So you're definitely going to need those notifications on to know when I come back from my, I guess you could call it a vacation, but a lot's going to be going on. And again, I'll discuss more of that at the end of this video. But with that all being said, are you ready? Do you have a drink? Do you have a snack? Are you cozy? Are you ready to settle in? Good. Let's dive in. As you'll notice, I've put on screen for you a list of the timestamps from IILUMINAUGHTI'S video that we're going through today. And in case I didn't make this 100% clear before, IILUMINAUGHTI, aka Blair, her human name, was involved in a bunch of online drama on Twitter, and then she decided to respond by making a YouTube video about all of it, addressing the claims that were levied against her. In my video today, I'm going to be able to cover from the beginning of her video through the first two timestamps. So where it says 8:10 sad milk, from there down, I can't even get to that today. Because you see how long this video is when I'm only covering two sections of her video. That should speak a lot to what's going on here and the level of messed up that is in this video. And as I said before, a lot of commentators have already made videos about this, and I do not want to sit here and repeat what a lot of other people have already said, and that's why I'm keeping this video focused to what I feel has been missed in those first two sections. But along those lines, I want to bring up this point. All of this drama that IILUMINAUGHTI has found herself caught up in took place on Twitter. Yet she chooses to address it in a YouTube video. In a way, it makes sense because YouTube is Blair's biggest platform. But it also makes sense as a strategic benefit to her. By switching platforms for her response, Blair delays her Twitter audience finding that response. She also introduces this issue for the first time to her YouTube audience, some of whom must be already aware of it, but some of whom also must not be. Because I avoid Twitter like the plague, so I get it if her audience was not paying attention to Twitter feuds. So many of her YouTube audience members are hearing about this entire thing for the first time from Blair, who they probably trust and respect, so they would naturally be biased toward her. And if they believe her, which is very possible because she sounds believable if you don't hear the other person's side of all these stories, then they probably won't try to go find out more on Twitter. Why would they when a research-based, intelligent, competent, capable YouTuber who they trust has already addressed whatever situation this was over on Twitter? So yeah, the choice to respond on YouTube and not on Twitter looks like a very intentional, even manipulative move to me, and not even in a subtle way. Just wanted to point that out before we get into it. As I said, I'm only going to be able to get through the first 8 minutes of this video because when I tell you, I was shocked by this section. I mean, I have never seen anything like this before. The first section of Blair's video, which again, it was the first 8 minutes, but even though it's split up into multiple timestamps, it was all related to the same incident. It was honestly the least emotional part of this story, the most technical, the least personal, with the least baggage involved. It really should have been the easiest section for Blair. She really could have just knocked this out of the park. Immediate W, simplest home run of her life. And she could have made herself the good guy right out of the gate. And I mean, she tried, she pretended to, she kinda apologized, we're gonna get to that. And yet, even here at the beginning of this video, before we start to talk about sad milk and these old friends and these torn relationships and all of this baggage, even here, she starts this pattern that's going to show up through the rest of this video. And again, I know it may seem small, it may be subtle, and I'll admit that I had to put on my meticulous bitch hat for this one. But when people are willing to deflect, play dumb, and pretty much lie about insignificant stuff to try to make themselves seem smarter and better and righter than another creator, it is a huge red flag for me when it comes to trusting them on the bigger, more important stuff. And let me get into it and show you what I'm talking about. Blair takes about 1 minute and 45 seconds to really get into her video, and she uses that first almost 2 minutes to tell us that she'll be using notes for the video, which is standard for her, so I don't know why she needed to verbalize it, but whatever. And she also tells us that part of the reason for her using notes is so that she can keep her emotions in check. The first time I heard this and many other emotional statements from her right at the beginning of this video, it felt uncomfortable to me. It felt like a lack of boundaries. It felt like oversharing, and it did not feel appropriate for the moment at all. Now, I'll admit, I'm neurodivergent, and there's a common thing among neurodivergent people to overshare as a way of connecting with other people, and sharing experiences is a way of saying, I get how you feel. Personally, I don't know if Blair has any diagnoses. I'm not the person to make any diagnoses, that's for damn sure. So if she does have any diagnoses, it could be a reflection of that. But if she doesn't, it could easily be seen as a way to get the audience's sympathy and soften their hearts toward her before she gets into talking about what the heck happened here. And for someone who is accused by Sad Milk members of emotional manipulation and control, it really does not seem like the best way to start out this video. Speaking of emotional manipulation, Blair describes her situation like this.
I'm feeling pretty vulnerable to have this conversation with so many people and so publicly, since some of the things that I'm going to talk about today are really personal and things in my private life that should have never become content fodder. So let me try.
Content fodder. It's called You Did a Bad. You did bad.
Take accountability.
People mad. You're the first one to make a video about it. That's content.
Right.
Now, did you notice a sweet little voice in the background of that video there? That is AveryJo, one of my subscribers, patrons, overall channel helpers, who didn't want her face to be shown on screen, but who has been a really great friend and support for me over the past few months. I had the pleasure and privilege of filming this section with Avery, and I'll be sprinkling some of that footage throughout this video. Even though I was the one doing the majority of the talking in that clip, admittedly, don't worry. Avery brings some hot takes to this discussion. And I gotta say, the raw reactions that you'll see of us realizing exactly what Blair is up to in this video, priceless. Anyway, after all that self-victimization, Blair finally gets to talking about legaleagle at about timestamp 1 minute and 46 seconds. For some reason, Blair starts this story at the end and then goes back to tell it from the beginning, but I prefer to work chronologically, so I'll summarize it for you. Basically, Blair's editors reached out to her with suspicions about legaleagle, a lawyer on YouTube who has about 2.6 million subscribers. Here's what Blair has to say about it.
A short story. My editors came to me about how parts of a legaleagle video looked similar to our videos. And then there were messages and an email from one of legaleagle's editors asking for more information about how we do certain effects.
Now, to be fair and to give credit where it's due, I'm going to take a second to read this email that Blair and her team received from the editor in question here. It says, "Hey Blair, I work as an editor for legaleagle, and I was wondering if there was some After Effects plugin you guys used for things like the intro to the first NFL video, where the lighter colors appear to stick out in 3D. We could recreate it, but we figured there was probably a faster method you guys were using. Here's the video I'm talking about just so you know what I mean, and there's a link to one of Blair IILUMINAUGHTI'S videos. Thanks. Redacted name." Now, I have to admit, it does seem like the editor is contacting Blair and her editing team on behalf of Legal Eagle, especially because they immediately introduce themselves as working for Legal Eagle. They use "we" throughout the email. "We wanted to do this, but we thought you might have a better way of doing it," etc. And I know that later on, Legal Eagle tells Blair, tweets it publicly, that the editor actually reached out because of a personal project that they were working on, which does make me wonder why the editor included Legal Eagle's name in it then, in that case, you know? So I get why there may have been a fleeting moment of suspicion here. However, right before showing this email, Blair says that the team had already been noticing that there were some similarities between his videos and hers, stirring up some suspicions, so it was easy for them to assume that this email supported those suspicions, which is what they did rather than just taking a moment to speak with this editor. The editor is the one who was having this conversation. It could have remained among the editors. The editors didn't even need to tell Blair. So that's another thing about
Legal Eagle should not have been a part of it. The official Legal Eagle, I don't know his name. I apologize.
Mr. Eagle.
Mr.
Esquire.
Eagle, he should not have been part of this situation at all. She should have just kept it between her and the editor. That's all that needed to be done.
I don't even think that she needed to be involved. I don't even know why her staff brought it to her attention.
My editors came to me about how parts of a Legal Eagle video looked similar to our videos. And then there were messages and an email from one of Legal Eagle's editors asking for more information about how we do certain effects.
So your people are snooping. Gotcha. Whatever. I'm not...
Even
I think that's a
so.
culture that she fosters within her team.
That speaks more volumes about her.
Anyway, Blair continues telling the story.
I looked at the compared images that were brought to me and I said, wow, that does look pretty similar, and I impulsively posted about it on Twitter.
Now, interestingly enough, Blair does not choose to show on screen that impulsive tweet she made toward Legal Eagle. Instead, after her brief mention of it,
I impulsively posted about it on Twitter.
We get about 30 seconds of this wispy blue tie-dye on screen. The Illuminati avatar reappears after the apology that she makes to Legal Eagle, so that she can be on screen when she extends that apology to her audience members. But then again, it's wispy blue tie-dye until she moves on to the next topic of the video. I think this is fascinating and very important. So here, I'll show you, because this is very important context that I feel Blair is purposefully leaving out of her video. In this series of tweets, she essentially accuses Legal Eagle and team of plagiarism, which is a crime. It is a form of theft, so it's a very serious allegation, which Blair knows. She's about to talk about that in a minute. Now, that being said, after Blair admits to sending an impulsive tweet, she does say that she has learned her lesson.
Truthfully, I should have looked into this more instead of just putting the information out there the second I had a gut reaction about it. I should have asked him what the emails were about, but I didn't.
Pay attention to the impulsive action thing, and particularly how strong the impulsive actions can be, because that's going to be a pattern.
I made a mistake, and plain and simple, I was wrong. So to Legal Eagle and team, I just want to reiterate that I messed up, and I'm sorry for any stress this may have caused you, and of course to your team.
At least she did. I think this was a fair apology. I think she realized here that she messed up, and that she shouldn't have done what she did in the way that she did it.
As far as this instance goes, if you view it in isolation, yes, she made her private apology. She posted the screenshot of that apology for us to see. It's all done and over with, fair and square. But personally, something feels very sneaky about this section to me. I really don't like seeing that Blair left out her accusatory tweets. We all saw this happen on Twitter. Why not include it in your YouTube video? Do you have something to hide, Blair? And if you don't want to show it, why don't you at least tell us what was in it? Or at least give us a summary of it? Why don't you mention the fact that this impulsive tweet you sent involved you essentially accusing Legal Eagle of plagiarizing you? This is why I don't like the way that Blair treats this whole opening section. This is more than just Blair learning the lesson that she and her people need to talk about their issues privately instead of taking them publicly. This is about Blair, who is very serious about plagiarism, making a very serious accusation of plagiarism, very impulsively and very publicly with very little information to back it up. Even the way that she describes what she did in this apology video feels so disingenuous to me.
Truthfully, I should have looked into this more instead of just putting the information out there the second I had a gut reaction about it. I should have asked him what the emails were about.
Let's be clear here. Blair didn't just put the information out there. She also publicly accused legaleagle and his team of a crime. And considering that legaleagle has a legal license to maintain, it's a very big deal. If your apology is genuine, Blair, then you don't have to dodge what you did. I do have a theory as to why she does, though, and I'll get to that in a minute. So listen, I'm glad that Blair has apologized to legaleagle and posted that apology for us to see, and it seems like she may have learned some kind of a lesson here, but I am very surprised that she even had to learn this lesson in the first place. Because as we all know, Blair is very serious about plagiarism, so her falsely accusing somebody else of plagiarism, even if she used different words to do it, is very serious. Isn't it, Blair? And since we're talking so much about plagiarism, I think it's time that we get into the next section of her video. As you have no doubt noticed, I've used the word plagiarism several times by now in this video, but I need to make a very important note. The first time Blair mentions the word plagiarism is in her video right here at 3 minutes and 33 seconds. As you can see, the word appears on screen in a section title alongside the name hbomberguy. That's because in this section, in a very roundabout and kind of condescending manner, Blair tells us that hbomberguy falsely accused her of plagiarism and tries to disprove his claim. However, what Blair completely leaves out in her telling of this tale is that hbomberguy's tweet accusing her of plagiarism was only, quote, after Blair had already accused legaleagle of plagiarism publicly on Twitter. It's a quote tweet of her tweet where she does that. It's literally responding to her, but not in the way that she shows it in her video. Now that she's deleted that original accusatory tweet, it no longer looks that way here in her video. Now, this type of self-righteous hypocrisy honestly gets me a little heated. I know this might seem small on its face, but please stay with me on this because this is bigger than people are realizing. Nobody else is talking about this because I think they don't see how much this matters. Blair's choice to not mention plagiarism until this point in her video, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, after the entire legaleagle situation, completely changes the context for this upcoming section about hbomberguy. This seemingly insignificant omission reveals so much to me about Blair's integrity and trustworthiness, or lack thereof, because it makes it seem like she's trying to hide what she did on Twitter from her YouTube audience, her larger audience. Or at least she was trying to create doubt, blur how bad it really was, conceal exactly what she did, and shift the focus off of herself, not by outright lying to her audience, but just by leaving out certain details. Otherwise known as lying by omission. I think this is why in her video, Blair never shows her tweets accusing legaleagle of plagiarism. She shows plenty of other receipts, but the omission of this vital screenshot means that until now, here, 3 minutes and 33 seconds into the video, plagiarism has never been brought up. This frames hbomberguy's tweet completely inaccurately, making it look like he was the first person in this timeline to even mention plagiarism, even though the truth is that hbomberguy's tweet was sent in response to what Blair had already accused legaleagle of. In the version of events that Blair paints in her video, she makes herself the victim of hbomberguy's random attack on her credibility. Here comes this big bad man out of nowhere, falsely accusing her of the high crime of plagiarism for no reason, leaving her to defend herself from this scurrilous allegation. But anyone who saw your tweet before you deleted it knows that that is not what happened, Blair. She is fostering a misconception. And personally, I cannot trust a creator who does that. Secondly, this omission of information is important because Blair then goes on to dress down hbomberguy with the most condescending yet inaccurate, self-righteous scolding I've ever seen on YouTube. And the thing is, Blair can only do that if you think that she's defending herself against hbomberguy. She's only justified in acting that way if you think that he picked the fight with her. But the truth of the matter is that he did not. So everything we're about to watch Blair do, badly I might add, is not her defending herself against some random scurrilous attack. Instead, in the proper, truthful context, it is completely out of line. And to discuss this matter, I want to switch over to the video that I made with Avery. We brought plenty of heat in that filming, so I don't need to redo it here. Let's go. Okay, hbomberguy and plagiarism.
Let's start with the first accusation and go from there.
Yes, Blair, let's. Blair begins with her mischaracterization of this entire event by calling hbomberguy's tweets at her an accusation.
The first accusation.
Not a great way to start out if we're aiming for accuracy, but I don't think that that's Blair's goal here.
After legaleagle responded in his tweets, there was another tweet that arose in tandem to this situation. And that tweet was made by another YouTuber called hbomberguy. And this YouTuber is someone who also creates longer form content.
So hbomberguy says, just to clarify, one of legaleagle's editors asked one of your editors what plugin they used for a personal video they were working on for their own channel. I take plagiarism really seriously, so I am interested in an explanation what exactly is wrong here. Personally, Illuminati, I would define plagiarism as something a bit more specific, for example, copying someone else's documentary directly into your script.
As you can begin to see here, hbomberguy is under the impression that Illuminati is talking about plagiarism. In the version of his tweet that Illuminati shows here, you can kinda see that it links to one of Illuminati's tweets because he was quote tweeting it, but now it's deleted. How convenient. A more timely screenshot includes Illuminati's tweet at legaleagle.
And then he does provide, I think this is a video that he put up comparing sections of hers with the source material that he's alleging they came from. So let's take a look.
Professor Hugh Futenberg.
Professor Futenberg has long been controversial.
A man named Hugh Futenberg, a former immunologist who has been long controversial.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit involving the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic child patients with blood products.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit with the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic patients with blood products.
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse and misprescribing of controlled drugs.
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse of prescribing controlled drugs.
So first thoughts, Avery.
Well, it was word for word. What I remember from her response to this, she was trying to say that in her mind at the time of editing that video, she thought she made it clear that it was a quotation from the documentary.
So let's get back to her video because that is a half-truth.
That tweet was made by another YouTuber called hbomberguy. And this YouTuber is someone who also creates longer form content. As someone who creates this type of content and researches various topics, the main thing to keep in mind is the source material used.
Oh hey, did you order some complete deflection? Too bad, because you're getting it.
Things.
She's gonna teach us all how to research.
Lovely. Let's go back to college.
From this moment on, I knew going through this video that she was gonna twist shit.
Things like articles, interviews, videos, documentaries, academic essays, and so on and so forth.
That is not what this is about.
That's a no-brainer.
Before I get into the accusation itself, I want to address the topic of plagiarism.
So as part of your deflection, here in your video, while you have control of the narrative, you are moving the goalpost and turning this into a conversation about something completely different? Even though it is a subject that you're wrong about, which Avery and I are about to prove? Okay, go off, sis. Let's have fun.
That word has been tossed around a ton, and it's not something to be taken lightly. And
Deflecting. Also trying to condescend. Let's just make sure we really know what we're talking about with plagiarism here. You're the one who threw around the accusation of plagiarism. That's been thrown around a lot. You threw it around.
on screen are definitions for the word plagiarism as defined by Merriam-Webster, Dictionary.com, and the University of Oxford. I'm showing multiple sources defining plagiarism, but the overall definition is going to boil down to this. Plagiarism is to take someone else's idea as their own or to not credit the source. With that definition being clearly identified,
AKA with that goalpost being moved to a place where it's under my control.
let's go ahead and take a look at what
No, that is your summary, your paraphrase of several different definitions. So this is the premise that you're personally working under, but let's not say, so we all agree that this is what this means, because what you should be saying is, so we all agree that I'm correct that this is what this means. Okay, great. Moving forward.
Let's go ahead and take a look at what Harris brought to the Twitter table.
You brought
Harris
it.
posted this video saying, and I quote, "Personally, at Illuminati, I would define plagiarism as something a bit more specific. For example, copying someone else's documentary directly into your script." End quote. However, in his own video, he shows where I'm audibly quoting a direct line from the documentary, and even visually you can see it on the screen with the quotation marks.
Not fully true.
Yep.
Half of one sentence is in quotes, but she quoted directly much more than that. This is
Right.
what I mean by it's a half-truth. You didn't fully quote everything that you're saying. The two prongs of your definition, sorry, I'm ranting. I don't mean to. The two prongs of your definition, what is plagiarism as defined by Illuminati, nobody else, is to take someone else's idea as their own or to not credit the source. You definitely took the idea. What you're banking on to clear your name is crediting the source. Putting a quote of a half a sentence, honestly, on screen is not proper citation. You need to put the MLA format quote. If if this is what we're doing, if this is how we're doing this, Illuminati, if we're gonna be who's the bestest boy of all the boys in the class.
She didn't properly verbally quote it either.
Yes.
So it's still not even fully quoted correctly anyway.
She didn't say, according to this documentary from ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Quote, unquote.
Yeah. All right, let's see what Blair's thinking. Maybe I'm just interpreting this whole thing wrong.
Spoiler alert, I'm not interpreting this whole thing wrong, but Illuminati goes on for a while about plagiarism and how to properly cite, and she does not prove that she is citing things right. In fact, she only goes on to prove that she's citing things wrong. But because this is not a college-level English course, I want to move through the rest of this explanation with a bit of a highlight reel kind of approach. Avery and I talked about this for over an hour while we went through the about 5 minutes of her video where she talked about this. It took us that long because Blair was that wrong and it was that frustrating, but it's simply too much to put into this video. So I'm just going to show you the good bits, and honestly, I might put the video that Avery and I filmed together on Patreon if you want to see our entire in-the-moment plagiarism deep dive thoughts. Let me know if you would be interested in seeing that. If not, I'm not going to put it up. If you are interested, I will put it up on Patreon just after I take the break that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, which I will discuss in more detail at the end of this video.
Additionally, you can even see the dual ellipses on either end of that quote, indicating that more of that source was being cited.
No, that is not what that indicates. What it indicates is that you took a fragment of a sentence. That does not, do you know what ellipses are?
Do you know what they're used for?
Nobody else thinks that that's what ellipses are for. This is what I mean. I know that if you're new to this situation, this feels like nitpicking beyond. But the problem is, this is how people get away with a lot of really manipulative shit. They try to tell you that words mean different things than what they mean. They try to tell you that ellipses mean different things than what they mean. They try to tell you that they're doing something right when they're not. When everybody else is established, this is the way you do something, and they're like, well, according to my definition, that is obviously the right definition because it's my definition, I'm doing it fine.
That's not how the world works, ma'am.
Ellipses, otherwise known as ... means something came before, if it's ... words, or something is coming after, if it's words, ... When you put quotations around that, that does not mean there is more of a quote coming before or after. It means
that is the quote.
This is a fragment in the middle of a sentence.
But this is the full quote that you wanted to showcase.
So she's just lying. Little, tiny lies build up on each other. When somebody has a problem with admitting that they're ever wrong, if she can't even admit that she's wrong about ellipses,
right?
What else is she not willing to admit she's wrong about?
It shouldn't even be an issue, but here we are.
It's an issue because she's making it an issue.
When you go to my sourcing page for this particular episode, you can also see that the documentary is listed as a source.
If you don't put the source on screen, how are people supposed to know which source that quote came from? How are people who are like, oh, I want to find out more about Dr. whoever the fuck, how are they supposed to know which thing that quote came from if they want to look it up more? They can't.
Yep. All these sources are completely unlabeled, untitled, uncredited, which Blair must have realized because if you haven't noticed, she puts on screen the words Source 24 specifically. Without that hint from her, there was no way to tell which of these sources that little piece of a quote came from. And that is the point of citing sources, by the way.
How are people who are like, oh, I want to find out more about Dr. whoever the fuck, how are they supposed to know which thing that quote came from if they want to look it up more? They can't.
There has to be a clear indication of where you're supposed to go to find the correct source.
Yeah.
If she sourced it correctly.
3 years since I posted this episode, and I've been really grateful to be able to continually learn and grow with time. At the time of recording, it was really obvious to me that it was a citation of the documentary, especially in full context of that section of my video.
Did you learn and grow, or are you still trying to defend the mistake that you made back then?
For some clarification, I would like to provide both you and Harris with the script that I was working off of. It will be available in the Google Drive.
Why? You're just allowing people to poke more holes in your script?
Why are you trying so hard to defend your past self that you've admitted did it wrong?
I guess the 1930 and 1945 are where this is stated in the documentary.
What is this supposed to prove?
Nothing. It doesn't prove anything.
Maybe I missed something. Honest to God, maybe I missed something. I'm just gonna go back.
I apologize for the oversight of not making that quote more clear. At the time of recording, it was really obvious to me that it was a citation of the documentary, especially in full context of that section of my video, because that section was wholly dedicated to Brian Deere's work. And for some clarification, I would like to provide both you and Harris with the script that I was working off of. It will be available in the Google Drive. While I believe emphasizing the key phrase of the quote about stopping injections on autistic children was, and still is, very important to point out, the quote should have been fully displayed on screen. This was certainly a poor editing choice, and it's an editing style that I no longer utilize, but it's most certainly not plagiarism.
But it kind of is.
Anytime that you directly copy what somebody else does is plagiarism because you're passing it off as your own work. You have to go above and beyond to cite your sources because it's plagiarism if you don't.
Yep.
And she didn't, so...
Yep.
That's the equation. It's plagiarism.
But she has a different definition of plagiarism, remember?
I forgot.
Harris, I am also someone who takes plagiarism seriously. And I do see where your criticism comes from.
Clearly
but
not.
Unfortunately, this was simply an oversight on an editing error, but not an act of plagiarism.
The longer she talks, the more... It's not a mistake in an editing style. It's very clear lack of citation.
I learned this when I was in middle school, and I learned the fine lines between plagiarism and not plagiarizing. All it takes is either rewording it or citing the proper fucking source.
Was a visual change to break up the many words that would otherwise be just chunked onto the screen, which, looking back at it, despite not being so visually appealing to have tons of words on the screen, this should have been an opportunity to provide that full quote.
But as an editor, you should know of different ways to do that and block it out so it doesn't have to be one big paragraph across the screen.
There's also just audibly saying, according to this documentary made by these guys, blah, 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 blah. That's what I do. Or you can put the clip into the video.
You can easily avoid that discrepancy.
It's the making excuses now for something that you said you were learning and growing and changing from that you did 3 years ago, for me.
Yep.
Based on the definition of the word plagiarism.
And she's pulling out the fucking definition. This is a different definition. This isn't her definition that she made up. Is this one sourced? No. This is just a screenshot with no sourcing. Did she really learn and grow?
To steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, use another's production without crediting the source.
Which literally she did the second one.
Intransitive verb for plagiarize is to commit literary theft. Oh boy.
And I think that this is the definition that she's basing her definition off of. But again, rather than just say, I like this definition of plagiarize, here's the source of this, let's use this definition, she's like, well, all of these definitions essentially boil down to this, which I made up, which is almost word for word what this is. To steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, use another's production without crediting the source, and her version is to take someone else's idea as their own or to not credit the source. Why didn't you just use this and properly cite it? Because again, it's not. The point is about her setting up these standards that she's not meeting, standing up on her high horse, wielding the sword of righteousness or whatever at hbomberguy. Well, Harris, let's talk about what plagiarism really means, because clearly I didn't plagiarize, even though 10 minutes ago she was the one blaming someone else and saying that they were plagiarizing her work for using 2 extremely common editing plugins.
Ultimately, that apparent hypocrisy is what hbomberguy was pointing out, but instead of facing that, Blair would rather lie by omission, to recontextualize his tweets, to change the conversation into a debate about whether or not she actually plagiarized, as opposed to whether or not she is a fucking hypocrite.
Off we go. I'm going to go back just a little bit to let her complete her sentence.
Based on the definition of the word plagiarism, his claims are simply false.
Please see everything that we just said for the past fucking hour.
Not only is the source quoted on screen, it's also cited in the sources list, which, again, I will provide in the Google Drive.
No, and again, no.
As a more seasoned video essayist now, I've been lucky that I'm able to continue learning how to showcase facts and other relevant materials in an interesting and educational way. And I'm really excited that I get to continue doing that.
But again, you're still in this video not properly sourcing the definition that you just put up.
It doesn't feel like she's fully educated herself after 3 years.
The more you talk about how seriously you take plagiarism, and the more you talk about how important it is to cite your sources, how much you've learned and grown, how much hbomberguy is so wrong about what plagiarism is, the more you submit yourself for scrutiny.
Yep.
So the more right that we have to say, but you're not doing it right.
Yep.
This is clearly an example of how we have improved since that time. I have nothing but love for everyone on my team, from editors, writers, artists, and even some of the not so fun kind of clerical duties like payroll.
Knowing what's coming, this is delightfully defensive before we've even gotten to the meat of this.
Yep.
Always gonna have their back, even if sometimes things slip through the cracks. We're a team of people who make human mistakes. We're gonna continue to improve content as the years continue, and we'll always be able to learn and improve from the past.
Clearly not.
You're getting defensive about future mistakes. This is... okay. Sad milk. We're getting there now, boys. Except, oh wait, we're not actually getting there today. Sorry. Partly because this video would be way too long if we got into that whole leg of this journey. Partly because some of the pieces of that whole element of this story are still unfolding, and I want to see what happens with them before I try to involve that into a video. But most of all, we don't need to get into this complex piece of it all in order to make the point of this video, to expose Blair's overlooked pattern of toxic behavior.
Those first few examples are plenty to see her recontextualizing, deflecting, moving the goalpost, shifting the blame, all of which she can do because she's lying by omission. I mean, through these condescending methods, she was able to turn the last situation from a question of whether she plagiarized to a question of whether hbomberguy even knows what plagiarism means. If all of of that is evident in 6.5-ish of the first 8-ish minutes of her video. Just imagine how much more of that is baked into the remaining 30 to 35-ish minutes of her video. And really, you don't have to imagine. I can vouch for it. I've seen it. It's exhausting.
Now that it's been pointed out to you, you'll be able to see it clear as day when you watch the rest of her video and compare it to the actual allegations against her and the responses to her video. For example, just watch the clicks video after watching hers. If you have any doubt about this pattern, that exercise alone will confirm it for you. Now, as I said at the beginning, I hate it when influencers and creators do this type of shit. In this case, it directly impacts not only Blair's audience, but also those former close friends and collaborators that she's in conflict with. Blair's deception forces those former friends in between a rock and a hard place. They have to either, one, share their side of the story whether they wanted to or not, because only they have the receipts that clear their names and prove Blair isn't telling the whole truth, or two, protect their mental health, choose not to relive that trauma, but unfortunately let Blair's misleading version of events stand as the truth with no rebuttal. Either option sucks, and if Blair would just be honest about what happened, actually take accountability and apologize for her shit like she pretends to, they wouldn't have to make this very difficult, awful choice. But alas, Blair has shown her true colors in this situation, and they're ugly. Now, if you want, I can do another video covering the sad milk element of this whole story, if I can find a way to approach it that isn't super overdone. Let me know in the comments below if you want more of this story from me. But before I start working on that, I must take a break from YouTube for a while. You honestly may not even notice while I'm gone for a little while because, as I have mentioned 100 times by now, I upload sporadically on this here channel. So it may not feel weird for me to take a content break, but I want to let you know that I have been going through it for the past year, both medically and with my mental health. I have had insomnia and been sleep deprived for over a year. I've had major surgery and gotten a new mental health diagnosis. I've gotten engaged and I'm about to move at the end of June. And while all of this roller coaster has been going on behind the scenes, I've been trying to hustle with this channel and make it work. That's right, even though I upload pretty slowly, I think you all know that I work really hard on what I make. I choose quality over quantity. Right now, I'm at a place where a lot of things are all coming to a head at once in a way where I really cannot keep ignoring it. I need to take some time off to address all of it and heal so that I can be the best version of myself, not only here on this channel, but in my real life, or at least not be a version of me that literally has not gotten 8 hours of sleep in a night for over a year. My average is like 5 hours of sleep every night. It's not good for me. It's not. So all that to say, after I upload this video, I will be taking off like 3 to 4 weeks, being completely unplugged from social media other than watching YouTube for fun. After that, I am not guaranteeing that I'm going to pull a D'Angelo Wallace and come back with a big, excellent, high-quality video. No. More accurately, that's when I'll begin being on social media again, looking at topics, researching for my next video, possibly hosting some live streams. So definitely turn those notifications on so that you know when that's going to happen. Hopefully they'll actually happen in the evenings now instead of the super early mornings when I wake up too early because I can't sleep. I hope to return from my break refreshed, well rested, with some progress against my insomnia, with some better coping skills for my anxiety, and some achievable goals for my social media presence and consistency here on YouTube. Which means I also hope that during the time while I'm away, my channel doesn't die out. And along those lines, I have a request for you. Please watch my content while I'm gone. Here's my channel. Do you see any videos that maybe you didn't realize that I uploaded because maybe you didn't get notified by certain YouTube systems? Maybe give it a try. Maybe try out one of these here vids. Have you checked out my live streams? I've been going at it for a little while here. They're fun and fresh and fancy, and they're a good time. The Danny Masterson trial is a hot freaking topic right now. I'm gonna do at least one more of those. I'm keeping up on this trial for sure, so I'll be live streaming until this trial is over at least. If any of this looks like a fun time, I do hope that you continue checking it out, because I worked really hard on all of it, you know? And to be honest with you, as much as this probably does sound like a little bit of a selfish ask, I am being honest and just letting you know that one of my biggest fears that has kept me from taking a break that I have needed for my health and my mental health is that I'm afraid that my channel will die while I'm gone, and that I'll come back to nothing after working hard and making some progress over the past year and a half. It's not an unfounded fear, because I have been having some trouble recently with my channel's reach. So right now I figure I should just go ahead and ask, you know, please, if you have some time, could you watch my videos while I'm gone? Which in turn will really help me to continue publishing the content that I love, and that, if I may be so bold, you seem to love watching. And hopefully help me to achieve my ultimate goal with this channel, which is to make enough money with it that it becomes at least a part-time career, if not full-time. Each individual viewer is a direct part of making that happen. So if you have the time while you're walking the dog or cleaning the house or whatever, hanging out at home, I would ask you to consider putting on one of my videos, and I'll be very, very grateful. Your support is free for you to give, but it means the world to me. I can't properly put into words how much it's important to me to keep my channel going. So thank you so much to those of you who choose to help me in this way while I'm gone and ongoing. Speaking of free support, would you consider subscribing to my channel if you have not yet? Set your notifications to all so that you can keep up on my sporadic uploads. What else? Like this video, that's a big one. Share it if you like, that always helps as well. And of course I have my Patreon too. You can go to patreon.com/HannahNeedsToYell to get early access to all of my videos, including this one, and to become part of my Discord, as well as some exclusive merchandise, other fun stuff like that. If you are able to and willing to add a little bit of financial support in there, that really does help make this happen for me. You can also even have your name scrolled at the end of my video. And now that we're here at the end of my video, it's time for me to get to that. So thank you so much to those of you who are patrons. Thank you so much to those of you who support me. I'm gonna miss you while I'm gone. But I know that I need the refresh. I look forward to hopefully coming back better than ever, and ready to take on this channel and take it to the next level and make it exactly what I have always hoped that it would be. And I think that I can. I just need to be able to sleep, man. If you know any sleep specialists in Connecticut, hit me up. Thanks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and your time in this video and all the others that you may have watched over the year and a half that I've been doing this and actually having subscribers. You all make a huge difference to me. It's hard for me to describe, so I won't try to. But thank you. I look forward to seeing you when I'm better. Peace be with you always. Bye.